Hello friends. In the last video we discussed about the law of parallelogram, how to find the magnitude of the resultant of two vectors, and then how to find direction of the resultant of two vectors using law of parallelogram. In the same video we discussed about triangle law of adding two vectors. So let me have a recap of the previous video. So it was given that if you draw some vector A, think as displacement. You move from here, let's say you start from this point, you move in one direction, this is your displacement number 1. So it is your S1 vector. You reach at this point and now you move in some other direction. Now you are moving in some other direction, let's say in this direction. So this is your displacement number 2, S2 vector. So you start from one place and you reach at some other point. And this process was completed in 2 steps. Step number 1 was your this displacement, and step number 2 was another displacement in some other direction. Now, in order to start from this point and to reach at the same point, you could have taken this path. Because this path is also from the same starting point until the same ending point. And for that reason we say that this arrow, which is your displacement, say S vector, has the same result which was obtained by S1 and S2. So therefore vector S is called resultant of S1 and S2, and you write it S equals to S1 plus S2. Right? I took the example of displacement, but this theory is valid for any kind of vectors. Instead of displacement, we can have two accelerations, then this will be resultant acceleration. Instead of displacement, we can have two forces, then this is a resultant force. And suppose we have these two as momentum vectors, so this vector will be our momentum. That means this theory is general for any kind of vector. Displacement is used as an example. Two important laws regarding the vectors are law number 1 says that the vector law, when you add the vector, there is a very important law which is called as commutative law. And what is commutative law? It says that if you add B with A, that is A vector plus B vector, or you add A with B, they have same result. They are not different. Vector A plus B is same as vector B plus A. And again you can use your displacement. You can use the displacement to verify this law. Let's say you start from here and now you move in this direction which is parallel to this length. This is parallel to this length. So you take displacement S2 first and then you take displacement S1. You first take displacement S2, then you take displacement S1, and again you are at the same point. So whether you first choose S1 and then add S2, or you first take S2 and then add S1, both have same result. And for that reason A vector plus B vector is same as B vector plus A vector. Second law regarding the vector is associative law. And what is associative law? You can associate the vectors in any order. Like if you want to add three vectors ABC, then it can be done like associate A and B first and then add vector C, or associate B and C first and then add vector A. They are having same result. Both are equal, and that is called associative law. Similar laws you have studied in the algebra of mathematics in class 7th, class 8th, or maybe class 9th. Similar laws with the numbers, and the same laws are now true with vectors also. For example, you start from here. Again, I will take the example of displacement now, right? So I will choose the example of displacement, but the theory is generalized. Suppose you start from this point. You move in one direction, displacement 1, S1. Then you turn and move in some other direction, displacement 2. You move in one more direction, displacement 3. This is your displacement 3. So what is your final displacement, or you can say what is the resultant, is this one. This vector is the resultant. So this will be written as S1 plus S2 plus S3, because this is the resultant vector. Now, associative law. What is associative law? From this theory, this vector can be written as vector S1 plus vector S2. So I am writing outside that this vector is S1 plus S2. This one. So if you start from this point, and directly walk on this vector, if you start from here and directly walk on this vector, that is, you directly prefer to move on vector S1 plus S2 and you reach at this point, and then you take a turn along S3. So you reach here. So this is S1 plus S2, and now this S3 is added. In the other way, this S2 plus S3. So if I join this vector, so this vector has a result same as moving along S2 then moving along S3. If you start from here and move along S2 and then along S3, or you directly move on this path, both have same result. So this arrow will be called as vector S2 plus vector S3. Now this is vector S2 plus vector S3. Now vector S1 and then moving on S2 plus S3, vector S1 and then moving on vector S2 plus S3, that is this point, which is again same as S1 plus S2 plus S3. So this is what associative law is. Like S1 and then add karo, you add S2 plus S3, you reach at the same point, or you first take S1 plus S2 and then add S3, again you reach at the same point. So associative law is now explained with the help of displacement vectors, but you can apply the law for any other vector: acceleration, force, velocity, momentum, or any other vectors. So now these are two laws. Next. Now the next theory is negative of vector. What is a negative of vector? What is negative of any vector? Well, if you have a vector in a specific direction, and let's say it is our a vector having certain length, then minus of a, that is negative of vector a, is actually another vector. Minus of a is another vector which has exactly same length, but it will be completely opposite to the first vector. So if it is your a vector of certain length with the same length, just put the arrow on the other side, and now this vector will be called as negative of a vector, nothing else. So vector a and vector minus a, they have same value. Vector a and vector minus a have same value. The only difference, they are exactly opposite to each other. They are exactly opposite to each other, and we will use this concept. We will use this concept for subtraction of vector. We use this concept, which is negative of vector, for the subtraction of vector. And let's see how. We will use this concept for subtraction of vector, and let's see how. Suppose we have vector a in this direction and we have vector b in, say, right side direction, and we want to draw a minus b, right? You want to draw a minus b. Now notice this one point. Notice one point, that adding, notice this rule, adding negative of a vector is same as subtraction of vector. Both are similar. Right? What I mean is, if a minus b, this is subtraction, we are subtracting b from a. So you can also write it a plus minus of b, a simple algebra. So subtracting b from a is equals to adding minus b to the vector a. And where is minus b vector? Where is minus b vector? So if this is a and b, so from the previous concept, this vector, which is opposite to this original vector and of same length, is minus b. So now subtracting this b vector from a is same as adding this minus b vector to a. Subtracting b from a will be same as adding minus b to this vector a. And adding minus b to the vector a can be done by the triangle method. And how it is done is as follows. You first draw a vector, right? You construct a vector, and now remember, we have to add this minus b vector. We need to add this minus b vector. So I will use the same color. I will use the same color for minus b. So we are adding this minus b. No, remember. So minus b will be added on the head of a vector. So on the head of a vector, you will add minus b like this. And now you have this vector which is called as a plus minus b. This vector will be called as a plus minus b, or you can say it is a vector minus b vector. So this is how we subtract the vectors. Now the next part. After subtraction of vector, we have another theory in this lecture, and that is a very, very important point. Now we are dealing with components of vector. Now we will deal with components of vector. Well, we learned how to add or subtract vectors. But it was a geometrical method. Every time you need to draw some arrow you need to draw other arrow. That means it was completely a mathematical geometry problem. As a geometry you will get triangular figure, sometimes you will get quadrilateral figure like this. So this was completely geometrical method, and I think this is not a very good method for adding vectors or subtracting vectors. What I mean, that geometrical method, if you use a geometrical method which we have done earlier, geometrical method, sometimes it is not very easy, it is not the smart approach. What I mean is, sometimes it becomes very tedious and we don't want to use geometrical method. It's not good. So we tried for some other approach, we tried for some other method, and that will come under the topic components of vector. So what is that other method? A better way, easier way, a different way is using the algebra, and the coordinate axis. So using algebra and coordinate axis, we can simplify our vector addition or vector subtractions. So now what we do, let's say we have some coordinate axis. Let's say we have some coordinate axis, x-axis and y-axis. So usually we plot x-axis on the paper towards right side, and we plot y-axis on the paper like so. We have one more axis which is third axis, that is z-axis, and that is coming out of this page. So this axis, if I put a line which is perpendicular to this page, this line is called as z-axis or g-axis. Z-axis, this line which is perpendicular to this paper. Right now we are not interested in the z-axis, so we will deal only with x-axis and y-axis. Let's say we have this x-axis and y-axis, and you have some vector, we have a vector. Let's say that vector is like so. We have a vector like so. Let it be a vector. Then if you drop the perpendicular from the two ends of the vector, and where are the two ends of this vector? So now this is the end of vector and this is other end. So these two are ends of the vector. So if I drop perpendicular from the two end points of the vector on the coordinate axis x and the coordinate axis y like so. So let me draw perpendicular from this end to the coordinate axis x and perpendicular to the coordinate axis x from the other end of the vector. Like so. By doing so, you will get this much length between the two perpendiculars. You will get this length, right? And we will drop a perpendicular on the y-axis in the similar way. So from this end a perpendicular on the y-axis, and from the other end a perpendicular on the y-axis. And now you get this much length on the y-axis between the two perpendiculars. Now put arrow on these lengths in the same direction as given in the vector. Your vector is in the first quadrant, that is positive, so you will put arrow like this and like this. Now these two arrows, by drawing perpendicular, this arrow, we denote it ax and we call it x component of vector A. We call it x component of our vector A. And this arrow, we denote it ay and we call it y component of vector A, COMP component of our vector A. Right, so. So these are the two components, x component and y component. And this whole process, like this process of dropping perpendiculars, then finding this length and so on. This whole process we call it resolving a vector. The process of finding the components by this method is called as resolving of vectors. Resolving of vector. This is the process. And these components we call them rectangular components. They are known as these components, they are called as rectangular components. So we can use the word for them as rectangular components. So this was the process of finding vectors, finding components, sorry. So you need to first understand what is component, right? First we will learn what is component, and then we will learn how to find the value of these components. How to find the value of these components. Now, if someone relocate the vector, if someone relocate this vector, suppose that I shift this vector in some other quadrants. I shift the vector in some other quadrant, but I keep the direction of vector as it is. Like if this is my vector, so then I will slide this vector. I will slide this vector without any rotation. I will just slide this vector on the paper without any rotation. So you can slide this vector on this paper anywhere, but remember, during sliding it should not rotate, because one way is like when you are sliding this vector, it is possible that you rotate the sketch pen. So you slide but do not rotate, and by doing so, suppose I reach here. By doing so, I reach at this point. Physics says that if you slide the vector without any rotation, the vector remains as it is. It does not change. So when you slide the vector on this paper or anywhere without rotating, this vector is still a vector. The vector has not changed. The vector does not change by sliding the vector without any rotation. And this nature of vector called as invariance nature. We call this property of vector as invariance property. And if you slide your vector from one place to the other place, that is from one quadrant to the other quadrant, remember the components does not change. And why the component does not change? Let's see. Now you will drop a perpendicular from the head on your y-axis and another perpendicular from the tail on the y-axis. So you get this much length. You get this much length. And put some arrow, and now this arrow is on the y-axis, so you denote it AY. That is the y component. And if this arrow and this arrow have same length, then these two arrows, which are the components, will also have same length. It can be proved by geometry. And then you will drop a perpendicular on the x-axis also. You will drop perpendicular on the x-axis like so. So drop a perpendicular from here, you drop perpendicular on the x-axis like so and like so. So now we get this much length on the x-axis with this arrow. Remember, all three arrows must be matching with each other. So this length is called AX, which is x component. And again you can see this length and this length are not different. They are not different. So this is what I mean, that if you slide your vector without rotating it, the vector does not change and even the components do not change. Everything remains as it is. And this whole property is called invariance property of the vectors. Now, how to find the length of how to find the length of our components? This is the next question. Can we find the length of this component? So yes, we can find. Yes, we can find. Remember, shifting or sliding a vector does not change its property. The component remains same, vector remains same, and everything remains same. So I can use this property. Let me draw the next figure first. Let me draw another figure for you, and this is y-axis and this one as x-axis. So we have some vector over here. Let's say we have a vector A somewhere on that coordinate axis, like so, at some angle with theta. Right? I will use this invariance property now. I will slide our vector till it is here, that is origin of coordinate system. I will slide this vector to the origin. But remember, during sliding, you should not rotate it. So keep the vector parallel to itself and bring to the origin. So we shifted our vector A without rotation, and that means that this angle should be theta. This angle is again theta. We use this property. And now what was the process of resolving? The process of component was drop perpendicular from the two end points of vector. So this is one end, I will drop a perpendicular on the x-axis, I will drop a perpendicular on the y-axis. And here is the second end, other end of the vector, but other end of vector is now on the x-axis, on the y-axis, so no need of drawing perpendicular. So by theory, this portion, by the previous theory, this length will be called as AX, that is the x component, and this length will be called as AY, that is the y component. You will put some arrow like this. And now our purpose is to find this length AX and this length AY. And if I am not wrong, you can prove that this length is same as AY. This length is same as AY. So you can write this length as AY. You write this length as AY. And now if you use this triangle, if you select this triangle where the hypotenuse is our vector A and the two other sides are x component and the y components, so you get a triangle here for which the hypotenuse is represented by the vector A and the perpendicular and the base are represented by components. So remember this statement that vector with its two components x and y forms a right angle triangle. It forms where the vector itself will always be on the hypotenuse side. You can put the vector on the hypotenuse side and the other two sides are called as x component and y component. And using trigonometric ratios you can find the lengths also. Using trigonometric ratios you can find this length. So if this is angle theta, we all know that the side which is opposite to the angle, that is AY, this angle is theta and this AY side is opposite to this angle. So we all know that this AY will be considered like a perpendicular and this AX will be considered as base of this right angle triangle. And if you apply sin theta and cos theta, cosine of theta and sine of theta, trigonometric ratios, if you go for trigonometric ratios in this figure, Here, let me write. So if I use sine of theta, we all know it is the length of perpendicular divided by the length of hypotenuse. So the length of perpendicular for this triangle is AY, and your hypotenuse is the length of vector A. And now cos theta, cosine theta, which is the length of base AX, and divided by A. So if A and theta both are known to you, I assume that A and theta are given in the problem. So if I know the value of A, if I know the value of theta, then I guess that AX and AY can be solved. We can find the values of AX and AY. Right? But only condition is you should know the value of A and you should know the value of theta. Then you can find the value of AX and AY. And knowing A and theta is important because in the first lecture I told you a vector is uniquely determined. A vector is uniquely determined by the two parameters. In fact, three parameters. One, what is the magnitude, that is capital A. Second, what is the direction, that is theta. And the third was unit of measurement. So unit of measurement right now is not important for me. But yes, if you have a unique vector, obviously magnitude of the vector and angle theta of the vector should be known to us. And if I know the magnitude, if I know the direction, then this is the whole process of finding x component and y component. Is the whole process of finding the components. And this process is called as resolving a vector, resolution of vector. Right? So let me take one example for you. I will take one example for you. And now the example is like so. This is my example. Let's say we have some mass here. We have a mass here and we apply a force over it. We apply a force, capital F, which is a vector. We apply a force over the mass and let this is x-axis and the perpendicular to it is y-axis. And you apply the force at some angle theta with the y-axis. So length of this force, which is the magnitude, is known and this angle theta is also known. And let the values are theta equals to 30 degree and the value of force F is 20 Newton. And now the question is find the x and y components. Find x and y components of the vector. This is my question now. So step number 1 was drop perpendicular from this vector. Notice that you're finding the x and y components of force vector. So since we are finding the component of force vector, we will drop a perpendicular. We will drop a perpendicular from the two end points of this force vector. So here is your force vector. You drop a perpendicular on the x-axis and on the y-axis. This length, which is on the x-axis, will be denoted by fx and the other length will be fy. This length will be fy. So I will focus now. Now I will focus on this specific triangle. You can focus on this triangle because it is a right angle. And remember, this capital F vector is actually this hypotenuse portion. The hypotenuse is capital F. So if I go for the solution now, then it is as, let me draw this triangle. Let me draw this triangle at this place, and I will use the same colors now. So by hypotenuse of that right angle is actually length of our force F, and then we have two other sides of the right angle figure. We have two other sides and those two sides are denoted by fx and fy. And we can see that this angle is also theta. If this is theta, then using parallel line properties you can prove that this angle is theta. Now use the trigonometry, use trigonometric ratios now. But notice that since this angle is theta, the side opposite to this, that is fx, this fx will be now like perpendicular, fy is now base, and this is obviously hypotenuse part. So if you use sine of theta now, you get fx divided by f, and if you use cos theta now, then you get fy divided by f. So our fx should be f sine theta. I put the numbers now, f is 20 and sine theta, which is sine of 30, which is 1 by 2. So 1 by 2 into 20 becomes 10, and it has same unit, which is Newton. If the force is Newton, the components will also have same unit. Then I use fy, which is f cos theta, that is 20 cos 30 degree. And now if I put the value of cos 30 degree, which is square root 3 divided by 2, then I get 10 root 3, and the unit is Newton. So now these two are, that is 10 Newton and 10 root 3 Newton, are components of our vector. Now the big question, what was the benefit and what was the purpose of doing all these activities? Why did we find the component of vector? Now listen carefully. Why did we find the components? See, for unique determination, I told you, for the unique determination of vector, the required quantities are unique determination of vector. It requires two things. One, you should tell the magnitude of vector, and you should tell the direction of vector. Right? So these two are always required for unique determination of a vector. Unique means what? Say you tell that, well, my displacement was 20 meter, and you tell that your displacement is 20 meter, and you are not giving any information or any hint about your direction part. So nobody can guess in which direction you moved for 20 meter. Now we have just found a different way of unique determination of vector. The unique determination of vector can also be done. It can be done in component form. Now you will use the components. For the unique determination of the vector. And for that reason, you need to tell me what is the x component, and you need to tell me what is the y component. If you tell me the x component, you tell me the y component, then this is complete determination. By knowing the components, you can determine your vector. So this is just the alternative approach. Finding components is nothing but the alternative approach of this value. So these two are equivalent. If you know magnitude and direction, for example, in this figure, direction and magnitude was given to me, so we found the components. Similarly, if we know the components, you can find the magnitude and direction also. And for that, you have to remember this statement. That the vector and the two components of that vector, they always form a right angle. So this was the example in which the direction and magnitude of vector was given, and we found the components. Now, if I know the components, I want to go back now. If I know the components, then I can find what is the magnitude of vector and what is the direction of vector. And how can we find? Is like, so let's say if I say that ax and ay, they are components. X stand for x component and y stand for y components. So they are the x component of vector, and that vector is A, and then ay is called as y component of A. And now my target is to find what is the magnitude, that is A of vector, and in which direction the vector is. Now we want to find the magnitude and the angle, that is the direction part. But now we are knowing components. So we know the components now. So if we know the components, it is easier to find the magnitude and the direction of vector. And I will again repeat the same statement that you need to learn this. You need to draw a right angle figure in which the components will be on the perpendicular and the base side, and your vector will be now on the hypotenuse side. So you just need to draw the vector. And first of all, you draw some coordinate axis x and y, and now I will draw a right angle figure. So right angle figure will depend upon the sign of these components. So if I assume that both are positive, I will draw the triangle in the first quadrant. I will draw this triangle in the first quadrant, and notice this hypotenuse is my vector and the other two sides are the components. And obviously the length, the component which is on the x-axis will be ax, and the other one is ay, and this is angle theta. So now we are knowing ax and ay. Now we are knowing ax and ay, and we want to find the value of a, we want to find the value of theta. Well, it can be done by the Pythagoras theorem now, because if you know this length ax, if you know this length ay, then length a, which is hypotenuse, can be done by the Pythagoras theorem, and therefore you can write that a, which is the magnitude of vector, magnitude of our a vector by the Pythagoras theorem is under square root of ax square plus ay square. And if I find the trigonometric ratios for the direction of a vector, then I can use tan of theta as a perpendicular divided by base, which is ay divided by ax. So now you can find the magnitude as well as direction of your vector. So let me take one more example with the numeric values. Suppose acceleration of any particle, I know that acceleration is a vector. So acceleration has x and y components. As -6 and 8. Obviously the unit should be meter per second square. And now the question is, find magnitude and the direction of our acceleration vector, right? This is same example, but this was in the alphabetical form, and now we are dealing with numerical values. So first I will take positive components, and just to make it clear, I will take the positive components. So what is the process now? Either you can use the formula, or you can use this result as a formula, or you can use the process now. And if I use the process, I prefer to use process because I know that I need to draw a right angle now. Both are positive components, means you should be in the first quadrant. So quickly draw a right angle figure. Remember, the hypotenuse is your vector, so this is a vector, and the other two sides are the components. So x component is 6, that means this length is 6. Y component is 8, this means other length 8. So without remembering the formula, if you can use the process and simply apply the Pythagoras theorem, then a from the Pythagoras theorem will be square root of 6 square plus 8 square, and that is equals to 10. Unit should be meter per second square, and this angle theta is tan theta equals to 8 by 6. 8 by 6, which is 4 by 3. So this is how you can find the magnitude and direction. I will take one more example where the components will be negative, or one negative, or maybe both are negative, and so on. So I will just take one more example to finish this lecture now, and that is, let's say a force, which is a vector quantity, has x component equals to minus of 8 Newton, and the y component equals to plus of 6 Newton. Question is, find the magnitude and direction of force. You can find the magnitude and direction of force. So how can we solve this problem now? Step number 1, you need to draw the coordinate axes x and y. Your step number 1. Now you need to draw a right angle figure. Now notice, you have a negative x component and a positive y component, and through the coordinate system we know that negative x and positive y, it always mean second quadrant. So you draw a right angle figure in the second quadrant now. You draw a right angle figure in the second quadrant. So looking at the sign of components, you need to select in which quadrant you will have to draw this triangle. Previous example, we draw the triangle in first quadrant, and now we are drawing the triangle in second quadrant because x component is negative and y is positive. Similarly, if both are negative, your triangle should be in the third quadrant. And from origin to this, which is the hypotenuse will always be your vector. So here the vector is a force. So this hypotenuse is the force, and the other two sides, the side which is on the x-axis is our x component, and you will now write 8. Do not write minus 8 because minus sign is already used for drawing the triangle in second quadrant. Now this is just length value 8, and this value is 6. So again, Pythagoras theorem, I will apply the Pythagoras theorem for finding F, which is the magnitude of force. And if I am not wrong, the Pythagoras theorem between 6 and 8 will give you the value of 10 Newton, and this is the magnitude of my force. And for direction part, I can give the direction of the force F in terms of this angle theta, which is from the positive side of x-axis. So this theta will be used for the direction part, and this is theta, and let this inside angle is alpha. So first of all, I can find tan alpha, which is 6 by 8, that is 3 by 4, and you will learn to know that the alpha is 37 degree, and therefore the angle theta is 180 degree minus 37 degree. And now this is direction of the force vector, direction of F vector relative to positive side of x-axis. And this is only as per the convention that we prefer to give the direction of vector. From the positive side of x-axis in the anti-clockwise manner. This is just a convention. We could have used this angle alpha for the direction, but as a convention, the direction of vector is always written in terms of the angle which that vector forms with the positive side of x-axis in the anti-clockwise direction. That is just a convention, but that is not a rule or law. You can tell the direction of your vector in terms of alpha or in terms of theta, and both are absolutely correct. So this was all about component resolution and the properties of vector. This was all about. Now our next lecture will be on some different topic, right? and that should be on the multiplication of vector. But before that, go through the video again and again, solve the questions from the assignment, and we will discuss the multiplication of vector in our next video. Thank you everybody. Enjoy.